Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO and the moderator of this extremely topical webinar on cloud transformation with agility, flexibility, and choices. The constraints on conducting business amidst the lockdown have driven organizations to use technology for immediate cost reductions, even as they continue to grapple with the usual budget contenders for tactical and medium term to strategic and long term objectives. The need of the hour for enterprise technology leaders is to adopt scalable and flexible IT infrastructure that can be consumed on demand to ease their capex cost and cash flow. Cloud has become even more relevant than ever before for IT leaders to achieve their twin objectives of digital optimization during the recovery phase and digital transformation to be ready for the return of growth. However, meeting these objectives is easier said than done. Before enterprise IT leaders embark on this journey to digital optimization and digital transformation, they will need answers to several questions. Where do we start? What to do next? Which processes need to be followed? What are the challenges in this journey and how can they be overcome? Which architecture and technologies need to be adopted? And above all, what's in it for the business? Well, in this webinar, we have conceptualized to address exactly all these questions and more. To provide valuable insights on the subject, we have with us Mr. Kamal Nath, CEO, CP Technologies, and Mr. Ravi Maguluri, CTO, Cloud and Managed Services, CV Technologies. Over the course of the next hour or so, these experts will throw light on various business technology aspects of cloud, thereby enabling you to leverage it to the maximum. After the presentations from Mr. Kamal and Mr. Ravi, we will open up the session for Q&A, and you, as attendees, will get an opportunity to ask any question to the two speakers. After the Q&A session, there'll be a feedback form. Kindly fill that up. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any more ado, I would like to invite Mr. Kamal Nath, CEO, CP Technologies, to deliver his presentation. All yours, Mr. Kamal Nath.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank all of you for joining us for this inaugural session of our webinar series. The last several months have been quite busy for the entire IT and telecom industry, with the responsibility of running businesses in the middle of unprecedented situations and challenges. As a fraternity, all of you deserve a huge round of applause for the great job all of you have done, and also to carry this forward in the coming months and coming quarters. There have been lots of learnings, new ways of doing businesses, new ways of working, new ways of serving customers, which were not imagined before. This has also brought up topics, discussions, and decisions which were not in our top of the priorities before. Pandemic has also made the webinar more popular, and here we are. We are all realizing that digital and cloud are no longer good to have options. They have actually become the must-to-have choices. Today, I'm not here to talk about much of technology, but more of the choices what you have when you would seek for agile and flexible platform to achieve your digital ambition. I would like to keep this session as non-technical as possible, because I'm sure, being on the other side, all of you might have listened to so many webinars from so many technology providers of various kinds. So we are here trying to talk about how you can very quickly convert those technologies by means of the choices what you have in front of you for creating an agile and flexible platform for your organization, as you have the you have the responsibility of actually running businesses more than ever before. So I will kind of keep the flow like this. I mean, what has been the cloud adoption till date? If I keep pandemic as a reference point, and cloud adoption now, as we are going through this whole period of pandemic and beyond, what are the customers asking? What are the customers from various verticals, various industry segment asking, and whom they should partner with? Because there are so many people must be talking to the customers, and the customers also might be talking to their existing IT service provider or the telecom service provider, A lot of new age players who are there in business. So in the middle of so many different varieties of partners, whom you should partner with. So I will try to keep it as simple as possible. But before that, I mean, what we observe, and pardon me for some of the words which I've used or some of the expressions what we used about the adoption of cloud. There were various mindsets, and still there are mindsets. So some customers, predominantly who are digital native companies, or whose business model is 100% digital, uh, they have adopted cloud. They are cloud ready, and they are running their complete business and serving their customers on a 100% cloud model. There are also vertical segments and customers in these verticals, as you can see on the screen, like insurance, NBFC, fintech, healthcare, education, who over a period of time we have seen them being cloud friendly, and evaluating various options in cloud, and to a certain extent adopted cloud. So we call them cloud friendly. I'm sure among all of you who are there in this webinar today, all of you will fall into one of these categories. We have also come across hostile mindset towards cloud. Now, this hostile mindset doesn't mean that the customers did not want to adopt cloud, but like in banking, because of lack of regulatory or lack of guidelines from RBI, a lot of banks are hesitating to move to cloud. Similarly, pharmaceutical segment has got security concerns. Stockbroking segment has got latency concerns. So these verticals and sub verticals have been predominantly hostile towards cloud adoption, or they have been very, very slow in cloud adoption. But again, there are cloud skeptical customers, who are skeptical about the adoption of cloud. They are not very sure that whether cloud will bring them benefit. For example, in the manufacturing segment, we have seen some customers moving their core ERP into cloud. There are some customers who are still on-premise. They want to create cloud at their on-premise infrastructure, the private cloud. Utility segment, again, because of their historical or the legacy applications what they have, they are skeptical towards movement to cloud. So we have seen different kind of mindsets, and as a very active player in this particular market, we have variety of conversation with our clients. However, what has happened now is the pandemic has really changed the whole conversation. We get calls from pharmaceutical companies, we get call from manufacturing companies, we get call from banks who have started in the first phase, thinking about and floating RFPs on migration from on-premise to outside on-premise, right? Whether it's a data center or whether to cloud, with the trigger points being minimal or zero capex investments on on-prem data centers. The customers are not ready to invest on their on-premise data centers, simply because of the fact that even if they invest a lot of money behind their on-premise data center, during pandemic days, the operational hassles, and the unavailability of skilled resources to manage all these on-premise data centers become a huge nightmare for them, and they completely get defocused from their main from the main purpose of doing the core business and serving their customers, to managing what is happening in the data center, because if the data center is down, their entire business is down. Okay. So customers also want to maximize as a service consumption, because the CFOs of today's time has got a lot of reservations on spending on capex, and so it is no brainer that they love as a service consumption. And I mentioned about operational issues. Now the pandemic has proven that disaster recovery is no longer disaster recovery. It's all about, disaster recovery has taken a completely different meaning in the form of business continuity planning. So whether you are able to go to the office or not, whether there is curfew or not, whether there is a lockdown or not, the business has to run, and you should be able to create a platform, or create an environment, or create an infrastructure from where everyone can work from home. And I'm sure almost all of you, if not everyone, are listening from home this talk. And of course, digitalization, large scale digitalization is bound to happen. It has been happening, but the pace has been slow, because as I've told you, a lot of customers felt that it is good to have. Now there is board mandate, there is a mandate right from the chairman level and the CEO level, that the company need to go to the digital path. However, all these things need to be done at the right cost, and I don't mind saying at a lesser cost than what the customers are spending earlier, simply because of the fact that the market is down, as all of us know. At the same time, the business has to survive, the business has to turn around when we sail through this phase. So cost is a very important consideration. So cost will always remain a very important consideration, I'm sure, in the next, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. And the model of hybrid and multi-cloud only makes it easier. So what are the questions which our customers are asking? And these are very relevant questions. We have been hearing in bits and pieces these questions whenever we are conversing with our customers. But trust me, all these questions are being asked all together now, simply because of the fact that you all are probably and our customers are getting very serious about this. So first of all, which are the applications we should move to cloud? How do I execute a seamless migration without disruption in the business? Because business cannot get disrupted. So how can we do a seamless migration? How will my network change? Because my network was designed according to the earlier architecture of data center disaster recovery. Those were not architected for multiple data centers in the form of hosted data center or multiple types of cloud, right? How will I define the security architecture and policy when my applications will be residing in multiple cloud and data centers? Because there is always a thought that if workloads move out of my data center or move to cloud, it is less secure. I can assure you it is not less secure as long as we define the security architecture properly, and we understand the responsibility among a cloud service provider, an application provider, and you as a customer. You have been always, whenever these infrastructures were in data centers, you have been always, paranoid about controlling it, paranoid about, of course, there's a valid reason for that, because we wanted to, you are managing it mostly, right? But trust me, the questions which are coming up is that, can I control so much when my applications are in cloud? Is visibility more important than control? And of course, as I mentioned to you some time back, will my costs reduce in a hybrid multi-cloud model? Even if you do everything right, unless in today's time you are doing it as a lesser cost, okay, at least if not in the first year, over a period of the contract period, over a period of 2 to 3 years, if you are not able to show the cost benefit to your CFO, the project will only get dragged. So what does a hybrid cloud mean to the CFO, CTO, and CEO? So the CIO and his team, you understand, technically and probably, outcome-wise, what a hybrid cloud can deliver. Hybrid cloud will mean something to the CFO, something to the CTO, and something to the CEO. The CFO will more be concerned about the cost. How much of lock-in period do they have? Can they, if it is not delivering the desired outcome, can they come out of this model? So these are the questions in front of the CFO. The CTO is more bothered about the cloud architecture, how they can create an operational business model over and over the cloud, right? How a CTO can help the business to create newer business models. Of course, CIO is also a part of that, part of that objective. So I'm loosely using the term CIO and CTO, pardon me for that. And of course, the CEO will be, very interested that how in this time they can sail through this time, and how they can accelerate the time accelerate their business, as and when the situation improves, or even how you can create new products, how you can create new areas of businesses. For example, we might have seen that a lot of new products, like something as simple as a lot of companies getting into mask business. Okay, a lot of companies getting into sanitizer business. So these are all new products which are getting launched by those companies who have never thought of getting into those kind of product line. And today, digital model becomes very important, for selling those, So we all need to keep in mind, both from our side as well as from your side, that any project you undertake should have relevance not only for you, not only for your customers, but for your CFO, CTO, and CEO as well. So we at SIFI believe, with this background, we all believe that everything that can be migrated to cloud must be migrated. So you might have n number of applications. Say you have 50 applications running. All the applications which are ready to be moved to cloud, or any form of cloud, you must migrate to cloud. And the balance which you cannot migrate to cloud, they should move to a cloud adjacent data center to configure the most efficient hybrid multi-cloud. Both me and my colleague, our CTO Ravi Mangru, will talk about that in little more details, which would enable your hosted applications work seamlessly with cloud applications as if they are in the same data center. So it is very important, particularly in the digital age, because you are not in a situation that you are putting some, or your non-critical application on cloud, and most of your critical applications are actually sitting in the data center. So you are moving your critical applications also to cloud, and of course some critical applications which can't move to cloud, they will be sitting in a hosted data center. Okay, but they need to work seamlessly with each other, because in a digital model, the applications talk to each other very, very frequently, and they require a low latency, and hence the speed what you're getting, it gets very important, and the latency what you can tolerate is also very important. So you must at least get connected through 10G plus speed to the hyperscale cloud, at least less than half a millisecond latency at a negligible cost. So cost factor will come up again and again and again. And you need someone who would own the entire assessment, the migration, security, and managed services from any cloud, from any of your current state. Your current state maybe somebody maybe some of the customers we have seen, they have adopted cloud in a certain way, to a certain extent, and most of the applications are lying in the data center. They can think about moving more applications to cloud. So your current state, depending on your individual cases, can be different. But your desired cloud config, your desired state in the hybrid and or multi-cloud model, that partner should be able to completely take care of that, so that your business doesn't suffer, your credibility in front of your CEO, CFO remains, and at the end of the day, you can service your customers. So I will explain to you now something I always found it very, very interesting. So cloud, according to us, does not come in a single flavor, and it comes in multiple flavors. All of us know, but at the same time, it will be very interesting to see the entire cloud spectrum through these lenses. The first lens is cloud enabling. The first tower, as you can see, is cloud enabling. Those cloud enabling technologies are those technologies who are themselves not cloud services, but form the essential building blocks for building cloud services. So I'll elaborate a little bit in my next slide. Cloud inspired models are those services who has inspiration from cloud, but they don't meet all the criteria of cloud pure. Wherein cloud pure are those cloud services and cloud platform which meets all the specifications and definitions and attributes of cloud services. And cloud enhanced services are those services which are necessarily built on cloud pure, but in terms of in the value chain, they are higher than cloud pure. So something like an artificial intelligence or analytics, which are necessarily built on cloud pure, but what they deliver is more than just infrastructure as a service. So or even platform as a service. So in your cloud transformation journey, if you are able to classify your requirement in each of these buckets, or maybe a combination of these buckets, I am sure you will find it very interesting and useful as well. And simply because of the fact that to whoever customers we have shared this idea, and whoever has taken up their cloud transformation journey on the basis of this, they have got immensely benefited in terms of their cloud adoption or multi-cloud or hybrid cloud adoption, and got terrific benefit in terms of not only in terms of agility and flexibility, but also in terms of cost. So if I have to map the products and services which we have for you, so it will look like this. So as far as the cloud enabling products and services, what we have got cloud data centers, which also hosts hyperscale providers, and in those data centers we have got hyper-rich hyperscale transport layer to connect it to all the hyperscale cloud providers. We can build private cloud at our data center for you, both as a services model or as a project model, either of an enterprise class or enterprise flavor or hyper converged flavor. We have hyper-rich hyperscale network, again, which I mentioned, which will give you secured access to cloud. Security is very important when your data is moving out of your data center, either you're on-premise or hosted. In this case, we are talking about hosted data centers, and of course, migration services, which will help you to do a seamless migration to the state of cloud. So these are all products and services which have their own role in a hybrid cloud framework. The good news is that you need not talk to multiple vendors to get all these things. We have all these as very mature products and services from CP's portfolio. As far as the cloud inspired products and services is concerned, we have got our entire infrastructure as a service available at the cloud data centers for us in multiple flavors, as you can see. So it can be a public cloud, it can be private or virtual private cloud at our data centers. Please note that our data centers also houses hyperscale cloud providers. We have hyperscale connectivity, directly to the hyperscale providers in the same data centers, and we also have our own infrastructure as a service available in our data center. So you can pick and choose what works best for you, keeping in mind your performance objective as well as cost objective. We have also undertaken a very interesting service which we call the edge transformation. So when you are implementing digital models, or you are rolling out digital businesses, particularly for a manufacturing organization as an example, a lot of data need to get collected from the factory shop, from the floor shop, or from throughout the unit. So Edge Connect service is a secured connectivity which carries data from the end devices, including sensors. It is an integration point of IT people and OT. All kinds of mobile devices or IT devices or wearable devices also. You can collect data and you can send it to cloud for doing the necessary as far as your business demand. And of course, the last but not the least in this category is our software-defined wide area network. As you know, most of you will know, or all of you will know, what is the significance of SD-WAN and what SD-WAN promises. So in the form of Cloud Pure, we have got all the hyperscale partnerships, AWS and Oracle Cloud, GCP. And on top of that, we have our multi-cloud management platform and services, which my colleague Ravi will speak out in details. That how do you manage when your data centers are located in multiple clouds or in multiple data centers? And of course, in Cloud Enhanced, very logically in our cloud roadmap, our cloud roadmap is mapped to your cloud adoption roadmap. So stuff like application modernization, Kubernetes as a service to allow you to very peacefully adopt multi-cloud. We have incubated this service, and this service is getting more and more mature. We have our own digital apps and also industry solution as a service, which is a very interesting offering which we have, which my colleague Ravi will elaborate a little more in details. So basically, if I look from your perspective, you have, by virtue of all these different flavors of cloud in the entire cloud spectrum, you get choices, you get flexibility of choosing what works best for you. I have seen situations where customer A, they have moved everything to cloud, but the customer B, a similar customer in the similar segment, they are not finding it effective to move everything to say a hyperscale cloud. So that point of time you can make your choices. So how do you make your choices? Your choices will depend on what outcome you want to achieve. If you are only talking about technology outcomes, spending less on hardware, less on people, and less on licenses, and everything on a more or less in a OpEx model, then you can choose the production services from the cloud in a bucket. However, if you are looking more than that, where you want to achieve both technology outcomes as well as enhancement of your service levels, we have seen a lot of manufacturing customers adopting our S4HANA grid, moving to our S4HANA platform, where they are simply looking at technology and service delivery enhancement, because HANA has got inbuilt the inbuilt analytics and other stuff which are there, so they need not go to a hyperscale platform. However, if you are looking at service delivery innovations in terms of creating digital production services, will motivate you to go to cloud pure. Typically all these very mature platforms are there: AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle is a new player in this segment. So we work with all four of them. And last but not the least, if you are really looking at directly business outcomes, then the cloud enhanced models, which are basically the digital services which are available in this cloud pure platforms, this is what you should go for. So in effect, it means that you should move your application, you should move your workloads depending on your not only on your current state, but on the outcome and the objective what you need to achieve, and also keeping in mind the cost factor, because moving everything to cloud pure may not be, and when you're looking at a 3-year or a 5-year TCO, that cannot be the best, that may not be the best option for you. Okay, so a combination of cloud pure and cloud as inspired with some elements of cloud enabling may be for some of you a very good option. So this is what Gartner is saying, and I must bring this point here that although I've been talking about data center multiple times in the last several minutes, the choice of data centers, when you are looking at a hybrid cloud model, your choice of data centers becomes very, very important. Earlier, data center, the requirements used to be it has to be a tier 3 or a tier 4 data center, seismic zones, good connectivity of the telecom providers in the data centers. But these are the new differentiating criteria which Gartner is defining, and we are very happy to share with you that there are a few times when we did things before even Gartner has advised all of you, right? So whatever you see here, either cloud vision and strategy through our cloud at the core model, our hyperscale partnership, our ability to manage IT and network for our customers, the cloud management IP what we have with us, and of course our you all know our strength in the network space, not only in the traditional network space but also in the new age network, with the cloud enabled network space, we are there. So we are very happy to note that Gartner is recommending these to the industry. So if I again sum it up, a lot of these things I have already mentioned before. So when you have to look at SIFI from a hybrid multi-cloud partner perspective, the cloud data centers, we have 10 pan-India data centers and we are expanding, and we have got hyperscale cloud providers who are hosted in our data centers. 3 out of the 4 hyperscale cloud service providers are hosted in SIFI data center in India. You have got options of virtual private cloud, enterprise cloud grids available in our data center. You can choose this model or hyperscale cloud, which are very adjacent to SIFI data center. The Cloud Connect, basically what we have done is we have not only connected to the hyperscalers, we have also connected 48 on-net data centers. So which means, and out of this 48, 10 are CIFIs, so balance 38 are third-party data centers. We have connected all these data centers with secured high-speed fiber network, so that the data between any data center to CIFI data center, or from CIFI data center to any data center, is very smooth, secured, and fast and reliable, of course. And on the application side, we have an application portfolio. For those who don't know, we have got our own applications, which are our own IPs in the forward supply chain management area. Now it is a digital, forward supply chain management software which we have launched. Our own, software solution in the education space in the form of e-learning and iTest. We have also launched industry solution as a service, where we offer business outcome based model to our customers, where the customers just need to pay on the basis of transactions. The transaction can be number of bills, the transaction can be number of trading in a stock exchange, the transaction can be number of tires which are getting produced, right? So I don't remember how many service providers like us do have these kind of models. And of course, I mentioned that to you earlier also, the multi-cloud operations center. And of course, the last but not the least is our network spread. So if you compare what Gartner was saying and what we have already ready, it's not that we have made it after Gartner is told. Everything, all these various infrastructures and services, those are available with us for the last 2 years. And all our customers who are partnered with us has got tremendous benefit out of that. And we have got excellent references, some of which Ravi will talk about, which we should build up your confidence. So we spoke about hyperscale partnership. We have 360-degree relationship with at least 3 of these 4 hyperscale providers, where they are hosted with us, they are our customer, we are their customers as well as partner. They are expanding with us. As I've just mentioned, we have not only connected, we have not only network solution along with them, but also we have developed tremendous migrations and management skills around each of these platforms. We have got a number of customers who have partnered with us. A combination of AWS plus Azure services, or even Oracle. One of the leading NBFC in South, they have moved out from, or they are in the process of moving out. They have already signed a contract with us, lock, stock, and barrel, from a very large IT services, one of the top players in the globally, from their data center to our cloud. So here we are. So if you have to, before I hand over to Ravi, I want to just I just want to ask you some questions in the form of a monologue though. So you'll have a lot of these companies talking to you. So on one hand, you will have representatives from AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle talking to you in varied degree. And you also, a lot of you might have subscribed to SaaS services, say for example, Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, Google Suite, Office 365. So these are all available as SaaS. Now, as far as your partners are concerned, of a different kind, they will come from different backgrounds. Like the hyperscalers and the SaaS providers, you will find at least 5 different kinds of partners who are coming and talking to you. So on one hand, you will find those large companies who are into business transformation and application outsourcing companies coming and engaging with you for cloud transformation. You will have similar looking companies like us, who are predominantly, the reason I'm calling it similar looking is because they don't have what all we have. So we are calling them similar looking companies who are predominantly coming from a hosting service provider background. They have some skills in cloud, but can they really be your cloud transformation partner? We also have these erstwhile total outsourcing and SI vendors who always love to sell more hardware to you, who always love to get you hooked to a 10-year outsourcing contract with horrendous exit clauses, who are always selling you more people and more licenses. So they will also come and talk to you for cloud partnership. But do they really add value to you? I mean, like the way either they have added or not added earlier. And we have a fourth category, which are very good companies, but they are niche digital services boutique firms who mostly work with the hyperscale providers, and they provide point cloud transformation projects, either digitalizing a particular process or or you know uh, or uh, or creating some digital services, new digital services on hyperscaler platform. Now, you have heard me all this while for the last half an hour. So if there is any company who is able to give you the comfort, both from an infrastructure, what infrastructure you need, what all services skill you need, and a partner who would be able to really run the entire journey along with you, with constant innovation, constant investments. A huge amount of investment has gone from SIFI side on the ground, and like as you have seen, we have already incubated our digital services portfolio. We have already some customers who have signed up with us. So when you build digital services models, you can feel comfortable to talk to us, and I am sure we'll mature even in that bucket, in that track, as we go forward, like the way we have matured in many other areas, when right from the time we started doing it for the first time. So by saying this, I will hand over the session to my CTO, to our CTO Ravi Magruri, and I hope you find this messaging, and this information useful for you. We are all there for you, and to come and meet you, of course, virtually nowadays, as you know. But we'll be always happy to talk to you and understand how we can help you. So over to you, Ravi. Ravi?
Yeah, I am setting myself up.
Yeah.
So can you all see the screen? I believe so. So as Kamal has emphasized on the choices that you ought to have and the need for agility and flexibility, I will dive a little bit into how do we get about doing that job, right? So we have explained to you that, we will explain to you what exactly does cloud at the core portfolio of services mean, and how we can pursue those things for your goals. Right. So first, let's define, right? So all of these things have semantic overload, right? So what is exactly hybrid cloud? What is multi-cloud? Is there something like hybrid multi-cloud? And we also hear hybrid IT. There's a cacophony of phrases, right? So let us, for the purpose of this conversation, very clearly identify at least scope what each one of these things mean to us. So a multi-cloud is typically a workload that runs in more than one cloud in its entirety. That is one possibility. So where do you do that? Is that even possible? Meaning, when you're on the cloud, typically we end up choosing some best of the breed possibilities of the cloud, which will make it inherently not portable or not possible to run on other cloud. But imagine that we can run this application on more than one cloud. The scenario will be typically DCDR kind of a scenarios. So some of the reasons is in your cloud provider, wherever they are available, they are possibly available in only one seismic zone, and they're not available in as per the compliance requirements. Then we will go and run it in a different cloud. This is all theoretical. I don't think we are at a stage where people are running applications on multiple clouds in their entirety. Then where does multi-cloud come from? The second possibility is being promoted aggressively by, let's say, Oracle along with Microsoft. So they're saying we can distribute the applications across multiple clouds, saying, hey, use my database from Oracle and use applications, everything else from Microsoft. So the cloud providers themselves are trying to get into this kind of models by establishing the network connectivity, everything else required in the backend. So multi-cloud is developing into a possibility. More important for us is hybrid cloud. What exactly is hybrid cloud? If you are distributing the application across private and public, so that is hybrid cloud, as opposed to between two public clouds. If you choose one of them to be a private cloud and the other part is the public cloud, then it becomes a hybrid cloud. So where is this relevant? So this is relevant when we have where people are, for whatever reason, meaning it is a legacy application, it is a data compliance requirement, it is any other thing that prevents you from taking everything else to the cloud, and there is a part of it that needs to be part of your application landscape that has to remain in the private. And how do you make, but then the applications are not running in isolation, they have to talk to each other. So those applications that go to public cloud and when they talk to the others that are staying back in the private, that's a hybrid configuration. So let's talk about hybrid IT before we move on. Hybrid IT is where on the private side, it's not exactly a cloud, but it is just an application running in the legacy mode, but it may want to connect with the advantages of public cloud services. So that when we looked at into as a hybrid IT. So to summarize, we are aware that we have seen increasingly that hybrid cloud is becoming a important reality and an important choice for customers, and we'll have to look into how we can enable that for you. So before we talk about how do we do a cloud or another type of cloud, let's look at how this current change, the new realities that we are in. And Kamal already mentioned the various buckets into which customers typically fall, or customers in the sense that the different organizations typically fall. So I have chosen to represent it this way, right? So you are, no matter where you are in this scenario, people are gradually converging towards the cloud readiness. So if someone is cloud hostile, we have actual examples that we will get into where somebody started off as cloud hostile, gradually warmed up towards being cloud skeptical, and then ultimately being cloud ready and being on the cloud. So what are the questions that people will be asking, right? Because at this stage, yes, I understand and I know where I am in this spectrum. So what is my justification for, or what ought to be my goals for going to the cloud, right? So these are the questions that you see on the side. So where do we start and all this? So if we are clear about why we are going to the cloud, it will also be clear as to what kind of cloud we should proceed. So let's quickly look at what should be the goals for the journey of the cloud. So this is a little bit multidimensional information that you can see on this slide. So let's start from middle to out. So number one, there are various models, right? Some people give it in 3 stages and some people give it in 5 stages. No matter what, it can be presented as one has to survive first, and one has to conserve cash, one has to respond immediately to the crisis by doing whatever we have all already done, right? Where enable work from home, enable these disaster recoveries and all more completely than before. So these are things that we have already done, and we have wherever possible negotiated for flexible or interesting cost models, and these are all done typically for services that are easily replaceable or commodity services such as network connectivity, such as perhaps various IT providers. So once you finished responding, right? So we have to realize, meaning we are aware that there is a very long and gradual recovery phase. So in this gradual recovery phase, we have to focus on improving bottom line, because there's no new revolutionary business or service development that will be accepted. So whatever services we have, and I have seen people pruning down their services rather than increasing, and making it very laser focused. So that is the optimization part, where you improve more by way of automation, whether it is robotic process automation or whether it is enhancing the customer experience to better navigate our services, because now it is all digital, right? So it's not as if everyone is familiar with that. So how can I make the customers experience my service and product more completely without we getting the opportunity to talk in person? So that requires you to invest in technologies that will help enhance customer experience and awareness of our products and services. Now all these things require choices of certain kinds of technologies on the cloud. Now moving on, at a little bit longer future, maybe 2 years or 1.5 years away from now, optimistically, when growth resumes, then we have to think about, now people are all in digital first culture, so they will be demanding more and more capabilities and culture which will be digital. So the very definition of services that we do and delivery models that we have to develop to offer those services requires us to go into cloud enhanced services, like Kamal was mentioning, and that is something which requires us to do transformational changes to our IT plan. So this now we have talked about what ought to be the typical objectives that one has to go through to start our start or continue our cloud journey, right? So then, now that we have decided that yes, I have to do this kind of cloud or that kind of cloud journey, what are the various possibilities? We are now getting into the how part of it, right? When you get into the how part of it, you have these various scenarios. So you have, all of you are familiar with it, right? We're moving from on-premise to hosted, where it is co-location, right? It's not yet cloud. Then from hosted, we are going into a cloud, whether it is private or public or hybrid. So we have been dealing with all of these scenarios in our last several quarters of our experience, and we have seen the acceleration of this during these last few months. So question is, if we fall into one or more of these things, how do we do it? Where do we start? So these are the kind of questions that we will get into, right? So all of these clouds, they all say the same things, right? They all say, oh, I have availability zones, I have transit gateways, I have virtual private clouds or virtual nets, and every one of them use these same words, while they have their own specific meanings to that, because some of them do have availability zones that are more than one, meaning redundant and all, and some of them may not have it in all the locations. So where the devil is in the detail. So we'll have to get into, and the network connectivity that you require to reach the cloud and go from the point known as transit gateway into the actual virtual private clouds or your workloads, it is different for different clouds. So the configuration of the resources is different for different clouds. So how do I have, so while it is not necessarily true that we will be looking at making it ready for all the clouds at the same time, there are questions that will come in the form of, should I opt into the cloud specific services, meaning the best of breed capability, right? Somebody says I have a managed service, which you don't have to do anything, and you use my These are typically called walled garden, right? So once you get into that, you will not be able to port the application to somebody else. So how many of them have actually ported applications back in the day when we were talking about database portability? Very few. However, if we want to retain our ability to leverage the cost, tomorrow when we look at cloud as a utility model, it's an aspirational state, but we need to prevent ourselves from getting locked into any specific vendor's specific services. Again, the con side of it is then we will not be able to take advantage of the best of breed capabilities of that provider. So it's a balance. So that's the question. So how do I devise a reference architecture? What do I use? What do I not use? Will I develop? Will I just take infrastructure as a service from the cloud and make all my applications run on Kubernetes clusters, so I can lift and move them in a minute in any other cloud? These are all questions that we will be grappling with. So how do we set up operations? So not of the data center context or in the hosted private context also, you're used to all kinds of tools and all kinds of whether it is for monitoring, security management, there are various things available. Now, when we go to the cloud, these are typically missing, right? So the operational metrics that the people will give you are very few and sparse. And if we need anything more, we have to subscribe to yet another monitoring technologies and application performance managing technologies and all these things from the marketplaces of these clouds. So that's the context in which Kamal asked the question, do you want to go to the cloud if you do not have control, or hey, am I really bothered about control versus visibility and my ability to gain insight from that visibility and perform whatever changes I need to perform to run my workloads optimally, or whether it is for you doing it directly yourself or whether you are outsourcing it to a managed services provider. The important thing is if there is sufficient visibility, it may be good enough for us to manage the objectives of our workload performance characteristics and all those things. So likewise, data gravity and latency is something that I want to touch about briefly. So data gravity implies that wherever the data is, it pulls the applications closer to itself. So if I have data, in the days of data center, it was all in one place, right? Your data was, your databases were in one place. The applications were pretty close to the same data where the database is. But now we are talking about, Office 365 has a lot of data. Most of us are using Office 365. Then your enterprise applications are somewhere else. And your maybe the web applications are in public cloud. So your data is distributed in multiple places. Now, the workflows tend to be chatty, and these, if the data is far away, it tends to bring in inefficiency. So that's why it is important for us to devise a mechanism, an architecture where you will distribute the data and the applications that would mostly use it in a hybrid configuration. We will talk about that one more detail soon after this. So what about compliance and security? So compliance and security is something that we spoke about briefly. So my data cannot go into public cloud. My security configuration has to be consistent. I know my intention, right? I know what is my the intention of my security policy. But how do I configure it with so many diverse environments? So we will talk about that a little bit. So these are the questions that when we actually start talking about doing the cloud or moving farther in the path to the cloud, these are the things that we'll be grappling with. Okay? So let's look at cloud adjacent data center concepts a little bit more thoroughly. In Kamal's conversation and in my observations just a little while back, we have been hinting at the idea that most of the challenges can be best addressed today with a hybrid cloud configuration. But what are the challenges for hybrid cloud? The hybrid cloud challenges have been typically latency. Because for a very long time, many people have come and told me back in 10, 12 years back, the very reason for going to cloud was supposed to be cloud bursting, which was a much abused phrase. Nobody would ever, whenever we challenge them, how can I distribute my application across the WAN? Is that even meaningful? Then immediately they would say, oh, you know what, you keep read-only catalog kind of things on public cloud. All your state and state management will be in the private cloud. We've gone through these discussions over the years. But now, with the advent of the hyperscales coming into data centers next to us, and with the advances in network technology, we have, as Kamal mentioned, we have less than a millisecond latency between our private clouds and the public clouds, and that is pretty much like wire-like latency. With that, we can take advantage of the services from the public cloud, and we can retain the data in the private cloud. So a lot of these challenges with respect to compliance, with respect to security, with respect to the ability to move or inability to move some applications to the cloud, all of these things will be addressed in a very productive and effective way. So if you look at the right side of your screen, then there are all these advantages mentioned that we can get with the hybrid cloud configuration. So we have these cloud adjacent data centers, Mumbai as well as in Delhi or Noida, which are adjacent to the hyperscale clouds, and then you can benefit with all these advantages that we have listed here and we've been talking about. So that's the cloud adjacency. Then let's go to the security part a little bit. So when your data is going across the cloud, end of the day, when we look at security, we always had users. Users were always using an endpoint device, which is a laptop or a desktop, and they were connecting to the applications over network, and the applications themselves were in a data center. But today, the users are not necessarily in the branch. Users are all over the place. Users are not necessarily in a protected network, which is a VPN or MPLS. Users can access from any endpoint, which is mobile as well as desktop or laptop, from anywhere, anytime. So we still have to look at, when we look at security, how do we secure the access to the security? Because that is the first part, right? So who is accessing? Where are they accessing from? When are they accessing? From what kind of device they are accessing? All of these things have become a category of security priorities themselves. Subsequently, the transport, like how am I going to the cloud? So and then we have been having all of these things in the data center, right? So how do I secure my application in the data center, whether it is through IPS, IDS, DDoS, perimeter security, all these things. So now in the new age of where everything is distributed, everything is dynamic. So you have three categories in which you have to look at security, which is cloud access security, one category of solutions, cloud workload protection, which is another category of solutions. The workload protection is typically your solutions like your antivirus and all of them that operate on your operating system and above, web application firewalls and all those kind of things. Likewise, security posture management has also become interesting and new, which is, hey, I have my intention clear, but even before I go about configuring controls for securing the workloads and securing the access and all are those which we have discussed. But in terms of what ought to be the security posture that measures that I should take. So these are typically derived from the compliance that one has to be taking into account, whether it is PCI, HIPAA, those kind of things, or based on the nature of the business and nature of our our own intention, we will all want to have some or the other kinds of, which can range into a couple of hundred criteria, right? So the security posture management will continually look into the state of the controls, the state of the breaches and vulnerabilities that are happening, and give us recommendation as to what kind of security controls we should be having. This is a little different from vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, because those are at a point of time activities. This thing will continually look at the stated intention in terms of our controls and in terms of what is happening to them. It will look into threat intelligence that is coming by way of feeds and all that, and will give us, let's say, some kind of a score or guidance as to where you are with respect to the intention versus actuality, and what kind of remedial measures have to be taken. So we have definitely partnerships and services designed around all of these three capabilities to help keep the workloads secure for your cloud adoption process. So now lastly, we will talk about the cloud management platform very quickly. So Gartner says, these are all, I mean, we also know it, but they have been good at putting all of these things in a very comprehensive way. So they're saying you have to do all these kind of things if you want to talk about managing the cloud by oneself. So these are all things that require investment and maintenance and skills more than anything else, which are of various types of skills. So, for example, you require all these in this band on the right. You have various kind of, some of you may be familiar with these things, but regardless, just the sheer number of things that we have to master to operate our cloud. Even though we are going to AWS or Azure or whatever, we need to have people with skills on all of these areas. Now that is a little tall order, right? So we should focus on our business, not on running a platform. So we need to summarize. If you were to summarize these things, it is about the skills required for assessment, design, migration. On the one hand, we spoke about these things, right? The consistent security. How do I do API integration? How do I do to these cloud? Most important thing is the cost is very, very dynamic. So how do I learn how to manage my costs, taking advantage of the promotions or plans that keep changing from time to time? How do I leverage that to the best of my organization's advantage is something has become a very discipline itself called cloud economics. And likewise, we have to have the traditional workload monitoring and management, the performance management, uptime, and all those things. So these are all the requirements that we need to have in a cloud management platform. And we are happy to tell you that we have a cloud management platform which will support you for all of those concerns. Now, let's conclude this quickly by saying, so with all these things, what have we done, right? So these are all possibilities. These are all something that we should look for. These are examples of customers where we have done these things. So we have moved an insurance company in the month of in the first quarter of the year, which is the last quarter of the fiscal year. We moved them lock, stock, and barrel from private cloud to hybrid cloud. We've moved a utility company to outcome-based, which is they will pay. I'll go one by one into the details, right? Likewise, from a non-banking financial services company, we have moved them from more or less cloud hostile to a little bit cloud skeptical to right now they are on the cloud already. So likewise, healthcare, we have been having them for a long time, and then we have moved them from hosted virtualization to private cloud over a period of several years journey. So power distribution company, right? So typically for any business, there are services that give you money. So what are the costs that go into how do I attribute the cost to this service? Because if in a utility company, I'm generating a bill, and if the bill is 100, whatever is the amount of the bill, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 3 rupees, whatever it is the cost of generating the bill. Now I may be that company may be generating several crores of bills, so that is the available money they have in terms of revenue. But in that revenue, they have to fund the people, processes, cloud, and all this, or infrastructure, broadly speaking. So if we give them a way, saying, don't worry about cloud, how do you model cloud, how do you develop the infrastructure, none of these things. I will give you a model where if you are generating one bill, I will charge you a fixed amount, let's say 1 rupee, whatever that number is. Now that will be very interesting and very helpful for the company to plan their infrastructure budget, right? So we have done this, and it's been running for many years. And we believe we have this kind of thing in many other situations as well. Suppose you are in a hospital, and then if you're doing, you're leveraging some very expensive equipment, but you use the equipment to give a service to a patient, and then you can say, hey, I can use this infrastructure to treat X number of patients in a given window of time in the day, right? So I can possibly run it for 10 hours. So then if I can generate the budget saying, because I can service these many patients, per patient I get this kind of money, how much of that can I invest towards cloud? That's a very easy way to plan for IT budget, rather than bottom-up approach of looking at how much cloud is costing me, how do I add margin to that, and what should be my charge to my customer. So both are possible, but if you can peg you have market reality of your ability to charge by way of your service, so then you can come back and say, my budget is only so much for IT, and outcome-based business models will be very useful for us as providers, as well as for you as businesses running these things. We have been able to do this in more than one kind of context. So, like we already discussed, these non-banking financial services company, they had an urgent need to go to the public cloud. I mean, they had an urgent need to increase the resilience and reliability, and their ability to increase the velocity of their services. They were going on an acquisition spree. They were having multiple configurations to manage. They wanted to rationalize all of these things as quickly as possible. And because of their domain, because of their paranoia about data compliance, security, and all these things, started off as a hostile, meaning not sure of what cloud can do for them too. They have moved. We have enjoyed working with them to move them onto the cloud. So likewise, hospitals, we have partnered with the largest hospital chain. These guys have come to us for hosted virtualization many years back, 5-6 years back. Then they have moved completely into our private cloud service in the recent past. And we have seen tremendous benefit for them in their ability to launch newer services faster and better with these choices that they get. So, to conclude, what do you need from the partner for your cloud journey, right? So you need to have people who have had practical experience of doing this migration in multiple contexts. You need to have ability to, you need to have a partner who can come up with you with a neutral, non-opinionated, which is the only opinion they should have is the benefit to customer, which is you, rather than whether I as a partner benefit or my principal who may benefit. Those are always there, but it is best if we can be neutral to the cloud, and we will focus on, the partner should focus on the benefits to you as a customer. That should be the basis for the well-architected design, if you ask me. And obviously, we should have the ability to cover all possible security scenarios, such as your access security, your workload security, and your security posture management. And multi-cloud management is definitely not it is still an art, it's not a science. It requires federating multiple types of tools, and we do that for a living, and that is something that you need to look at what is the way in which these are projected to be delivered when you choose a partner. And finally, we definitely resiliency and data protection services, right? So if you choose backup and disaster recovery, there are many things that you have to look at. What about the network? What about the seismic zone differences? How quickly can I go and configure disaster recovery? So some of the infrastructure investments that we have done will give you, regardless of which data center that you are in the country, regardless of which data center that you want to go to for any one of these things, we are ready. That's something we have already shared with you. And finally, what about cloud enhanced services, right? So the even though we're not doing it right now, when we're ready to do it, let's say a year and a half down the line, what are the capabilities that the partner can provide you? So the partner should provide you two parts, right? One is to help develop the application, incorporating some of these technologies directly, or the entire environment required to develop this application, short of developing the application. I call it tool chain as a service, for example. So we have very well evolved tool chains that help customer, though I draw a line. So the above the line is application development, the line and below the line is all infrastructure and operations. So for cloud enhanced applications also, it requires to look into various kinds of architectural decisions. We can help with all of those things. So with that, I conclude and I hand it back to the Yash for seeing if we have any questions that we can answer.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal and Mr. Ravi, for those comprehensive and insightful presentations. It's time now to take questions from the attendees. I'll request the attendees to please type in their questions in the chat box, which I'll then read out for the two gentlemen to respond to. Also, I would once again like to remind you to please fill up the feedback form after the Q&A session. We have already overshot the dead timeline, so we just have time to take a couple of questions. The first question that we have is, I am already in the cloud, but I'm yet to leverage the cost advantage. How can SIFI help us with this? How will adoption of hybrid cloud reduce cost?
Ravi, I will take the
Who would
question.
like to take this up? Okay, great, Kamal, go ahead.
So my first question very quickly to you is, have you really, are you really a cloud native company? Like, are you running your entire IT on cloud? Okay. And while you took the decision of either migrating or, hosting for the first time on cloud, did you check the merit of which application should be in what kind of cloud? So I am not aware of this, but I can give you some principles. If there is any workload which are fixed, more or less fixed, in number. I mean, it means, for example, ERP. Your ERP can pretty much be in a hosted private cloud environment or in a virtual private cloud environment in a non-hyperscaler. Okay, so I also don't know what do you mean by cloud? Is it a hyperscaler cloud or it is a non-hyperscaler cloud? So out of the minimum information which I got from you, I think you should evaluate application by application. I mean, if you have already moved to cloud, that means you don't have concern about cloud. So what should be in what kind of cloud? So the choice of cloud, I think this is the call you need to take. And we are ready to help you. If you want one of us to talk to you, we'll be happy to help you.
Sure.
Doing
Sure, Kamal.
Assessment of the choice of cloud.
Great, Kamal. The next question is, my business data is very sensitive and I don't know how will you keep it safe in the cloud. If you can please explain, how can you protect my business from cyber threats, basically? Who would like to take it up?
Yeah, I'll do that. So it is It's something that we have discussed in this session to some in multiple multiple passes, right? So my data, first of all, need not go to the cloud. That I can put in my private cloud. And so I believe when the question is asked by cloud, again, the hidden idea is that cloud means public cloud. So where we do not have much control, where I was asked in some tender, meaning bid defense questions. Some very respected professors asked a question. I know you talk about encryption. I know you talk about you having the key yourself. But what if my government, which is not your government, rather your government, which is not my government, asks for you to share the data? That's look at what we're doing with TikTok right now, right? This is the kind of thing. So if the other government to who they're bound to, if they force you to do the part with the data, will you or will you not? So no one will be able to authoritatively answer that question. So depending on the importance of the data, best is to not put it in a public cloud. But once you, that is where we talked about hybrid cloud and all these advantages. But if you do otherwise, you have the mechanisms for encryption, key management, and all those kind of things.
Sure, Ravi. We have time for just one more question. The question is, what are the challenges and opportunities for cloud transformation in the higher education? Are digital transformation awareness important within the organization before going for cloud transformation? How critical is digital transformation awareness within the organization for employees before embarking on the journey to cloud transformation? Kamal, would you take it up?
I'll take the question. Very interestingly, I'm running a webinar, 1 hour webinar on 15th of September on this very subject, where the participants will be all administrative heads and principals of institutes and universities. Okay, so look, I don't think you have. I mean, if there is one sector which has to immediately go into adoption of clouds, is education. Okay, because I don't think that readiness and adoption need to go in parallel, because you are already ready. I don't know which educational institute you are representing. If you are telling me that you are thinking about adoption of cloud, that means you are already lagging far behind, because by adopting cloud during the pandemic time, I'm sure the children from every home are attending online classes, right? But yes, you have raised a very pertinent point. The mindset within the educational institutes, among the teachers, among the administrators, among the policymakers, that also is very important. I can assure you there are a lot of action happening on that. And I think within your institute, if you want us to run a session also within your institute, we are very happy to do that. How we can build even the mindset.
Great. Sure. So that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. We hope the insights provided by speakers will empower your enterprise to create new business models, generate new revenue streams, rapidly respond to changing environment, and provide enhanced customer experience. In a nutshell, do all that is needed to survive and thrive in the future. With this, I would like to bring the session to a close. Thanks once again, Mr. Kamal and Mr. Ravi, and thank you attendees for sparing time for this session. Stay safe and have a good night ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, all our customers. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Thank you.